176. That's how many days have passed since Breonna Taylor was killed by Louisville, Kentucky police. Activists are undeterred. They continue to do their level best to get justice for the late 26-year-old. Protesters will descend on the Churchill Downs racetrack today, the site of this weekend's Kentucky Derby, also where their cause will get the most visibility in the city. Their message: no horse races until justice is served. Meanwhile, the case has developed on multiple fronts. This week, Kentucky's Attorney General announced that he received the ballistics report from the shooting, but he has not yet revealed its findings or what they may mean for the investigation. Vice News also reporting that new photos show at least one of the officers who burst into Taylor's home that night was in fact wearing a body camera, contradicting statements from Louisville police who said narcotics officers don't wear them on the job. This also comes as a former boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, tells the Louisville Courier-Journal that police tried to get him to sign a plea deal that would implicate Taylor in an organized crime syndicate. The lawyer for Taylor's family posted a photo on social media, which he says was the copy of the plea deal, saying it confirms that the police tried to smear Taylor, painting her as a felon after her death. It's unbelievable. They literally tried to use her as a scapegoat for her own death. Taylor's case and the ensuing controversy is the subject of a brand new documentary. The New York Times presents The Killing of Breonna Taylor. It premiered last night on FX, and it sheds even more light on the egregious circumstances surrounding her death. Here's a snip.
Well, where's Breonna? I need to see Breonna.
I told him, just hold on 1 second. I'm not at liberty to say anything that happened. And then I went to go get a detective, and they went and spoke to Breonna's family at that point in time.
It was about 11 o'clock in the morning when he comes back over and says they were almost done. And I said, okay, that's fine, but where is Breonna? And that's when he said, well, ma'am, she's still in the apartment. So I knew then what that meant.
Joining me now, the award-winning documentarian Yoruba Richen, who produced and directed the Breonna Taylor documentary, and Nicole Hannah-Jones, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the New York Times magazines and co-founder of the 1619 Project. Yoruba, what in that documentary, look, we have a problem in America saying her name. Women who get shot, women of color in particular, get forgotten. We certainly don't know collectively the story of the killing of Breonna Taylor. What is in there that you most want Americans to understand?
Well, thank you for having me, Velshi, Ali.
My pleasure.
What I want Americans to understand is that the loss of this young woman is not just the loss to her family, but was the loss to a whole community. She was a daughter. She was the beloved daughter of Tamika Palmer, who we saw in that clip. She was a sister who lived with her, who also was put in harm's. She happened to be out of town that night, but she could have been killed because of all of the bullets that were in the apartment. She was the girlfriend of Kenny Walker. And so she was a mentor. So the loss of her was the loss of to the community, to and to the city. And that is why we are seeing these uprisings, because it's not just the loss of this young woman at 26 years old, but what she meant to all the people around her. And that's what I want people to understand.
And Nicole, it's a sort of a point that you've made a lot of times, whether it's about saying her name or saying their name, that these are people. And our society doesn't necessarily register them as people. They are statistics. They are another installment in a series that we've seen. And only until we see these victims of police violence as people in their own right, with families and with aspirations and with potential and with a future, will we realize what's going wrong.
Yes. Thank you, Yoruba, for that documentary. I just think it so beautifully illustrates that point. At the same time, These should be unnecessary. The fact that we have to prove the humanity of people who are killed by armed agents of the state speaks to the fundamental issue. The Washington Post just recently did an article that showed about 20% of all of the women who are killed by police are black women, and about 28% of the unarmed women who are killed by police are black women. And we've seen these efforts to smear Breonna Taylor, to somehow justify her death, which occurs again and again. So one, I think it should be clear that even if you have committed a crime, or even if you are accused of committing a crime, you don't deserve to be executed by the police in a country that says it believes in due process. But we often see this kind of retroactive trying to justify police violence by dragging the names of those who were killed through the mud. So this documentary is a pushing back on that and really telling the story that these losses, once we've all moved on, these families and communities are still having to deal with these losses. And on top of that, having to deal with the loss and devastation of achieving no justice for the killing of their loved ones.
And
yeah,
at this
can
point,
I just add,
you can apply this to, please go ahead.
I just want to add the word that we haven't said yet, and the word that kept coming back to me in making this film is the trauma to the friends and family, to the city, and to us as a people. And I think, again, that's why you're seeing these uprisings, because these are traumatic events. Even, we see it people see it on the news, it flies by, but the pain and suffering is really, uncalculable.
Are you finding, though, that that's changing, in that the movements of the last several months, the protests, are indicating that Americans writ large, black and white, young and old, are feeling this as their trauma? They're finally registering something that Nicole tweeted the other day on September 3rd, in which she said, guilty or not, in a system in which due process is supposed to be the foundation, the police are not judge, jury, or executioner. That we need to not wake up in the morning and find more stories like this.
Absolutely. I mean, I do feel that there is a shift in the fact that, because these police killings have been going on all my life, all my parents' life. This is nothing new, as we know. But we are finding a shift in how it is motivating and people and how people are understanding, white people and other people of color are understanding that this is part of our reality and has been for a long time. And I think these sustained protests show that. Now, the question is, will we get real reform? Because as Nicole said, this is, the police can't be judge, jury, and executioner. Even if a person is accused of a crime, which Breonna was not, and no drugs or money were found in her apartment, even though she, they had their reasons, which we lay out in the film, for getting the affidavit, which is, contended by, which is the others, which her family, has issues with. But even if that's the case, there is a process in this country. And then you look at the bigger issue, which we talk about too, the war on drugs. This was all in pursuit of some drugs. How is a policy, a war on drug policy, which has targeted African Americans, not just, but disproportionately, how can this war on drugs policy, how can we allow this pursuit of drugs to end up in the loss of an innocent person? Yep. That absolutely makes no sense.
I wish we had more time for this conversation, but we will make more time for this conversation in shows to come. Thank you. Yoruba Richen is the producer and director of The Killing of Breonna Taylor. It's streaming now on Hulu. Nicole Hannah-Jones is a great friend of our show. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for her remarkable work on the 1619 Project with the New York Times Magazine.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.